Hello everyone. Today's video is about my particular installation of the ZS6BKW antenna. In the previous video, I mentioned that I was going to take down my 40-meter delta loop, which was in a horizontal configuration, and I did take it down. We're going to walk outside. We're going to look at how I've got it installed, as well as come back inside and open up NanoVNASaver and do a quick scan of 160 through 10 meters, and we'll probably look at 6 meters as well. Stick around. Okay, everybody, we are outside, and I'm going to show you the installation as I have it of the ZS6BKW antenna. All right, this is my homemade pass-through, just simply a piece of plywood with 2 openings cut. I have 2 pieces of, I believe that's 1.25" flat bar, and one has been drilled out for some SO239 plugs that's passed through. The coax here is 9 foot of RG8X, the big RG8, up to the feed point. Now, the feed point was hanging down a little below head level, so I did take and tie a string to it and throw it over that lowest branch right up here and go back to a post to keep it out of like mowing grass and such as that. The ladder line comes up here and turns around by the limb and goes all the way up to there. I hope you can see it on the video. That's about 38 foot. Now I could pull it on up about another foot higher and have the feed point not touching the ground, but there's a limb right to the left of that feed point, which is right in here. Again, I hope you can see it. And the limb interfered with the dipole leg as it went out to a tree right in this area. It's somewhere between 25 and 30 foot tall. The other dipole leg comes out here. I don't know if you can see it or not. Maybe you can see the end insulator sitting somewhere in here, and then it goes over this first tree into the pine tree at about 30 foot and is tied off there. Now, this anchor point here, as well as the feed point anchor here, was on my horizontal loop. The third loop was somewhere over in here at about 25 or 30 foot up. So I reused the feed point for my delta loop and one anchor point here off the delta loop. Now the other anchor point, I left the string up there. I just had enough that I let it hit the ground, and it's tied off in that bush over here somewhere on both ends, so if I wanted to raise another antenna, I could. Okay, now that we've been outside and you've seen how I have it installed, let's go in the shack and we'll look at it on NanoVNASaver. Okay, now that we have been outside and I have shown you the installation of the ZS/BKW antenna, I will pull up NanoVNASaver and we will look at it through the NanoVNA device, and I'll explain some things. All right, here is your NanoVNASaver. Now I have already got it set up to scan 160 meters. I do not think it's going to be very usable on 160. I have not heard anybody using this on 160 meters on this particular design. I know there is a longer version that you can use that would get you 160 meters, and you know, right now I just don't have enough area to put one in. So let's just take a look at it and see. So we're actually showing 3.2 pretty much flat across the entire 160-meter band. So, that may be something to experiment with down the road. So let's take and put, all right, now we have the NanoVNASaver set up for 80 meters. And let's take a sweep at it. All right, we see that we start out at roughly 2.33 down in the bottom of the CW portion, and 225, somewhere right there at 3.565 megahertz. 2.253 VSWR is the lowest peak, and as it just inclines up to about 2.87. So that's really usable, but we shall have to see about what's going on with that. Now let's take a look at 40 meters. So we'll put 7 megahertz to 7.3 megahertz, and we'll do a sweep. You can see in the CW portion, it is 1-to-1, 1.209. The lowest point is 1.029 at 7078, and it increases until 7.300, and you have 1.617. In today's modern radios, that's a very acceptable range to use it in. I do not remember if they said 30 meters was usable. I do not think so. Yeah, no, it's not usable. It's 15.9, slopes down to 14 across the band. So yeah, and we already knew that 30 meters was probably not usable in this. So let's check out 20 meters. All right, 1.67, yeah, 1.65 at 14 megahertz. Lowest point, 1.265 at 14.175, which that's pretty close to the area that I was aiming at. And then at the upper end, 14.350 is 1.757. So again, very usable without a tuner on that band. Let's take a look at 17 meters, which is 18.068 to 18.168. All right, almost flat across the entire band. at 18068 showing 1.198. The lowest it appears to be right in here around 18.129 is 1.125. So that's very good. The upper end of the band, 18168, is 1.147. Very, very usable antenna for that band. Let's look at 15 meters. I do not think that we're going to be very satisfied on this band. Five. And, well, 21 megahertz is 2.8. And it goes up to 3.095 on 21.450. So, not sure. I don't remember what the internal tuner of this FT710 does, but that's lower than I expected. So let's continue on. 12 megahertz. The 24.89 to 24.99. Do a sweep. All right. Here is 12 meters at 24.89. It is 1.589. Is very good. It does rise some to the end of the band, which is 24.990, and it's showing 1.995. So, again, pretty acceptable for today's radios. Let's look at 10 meters. 8. And I'm just going to span the whole band to see what it looks like. 29.7. Okay, we start out kind of high on 10 meters. 28 is 2.256. The lowest reading is at 29.105, and it is 1.021. And it climbs back up to 2.199 at 29.7. So, that may be a good band for these newer radios like I'm talking about. Now, we always hear but wait, there's more. So we're going to check 6 meters as well. And I'm going to go ahead and get the whole band on it as well. Oh, look at here. At 50 megahertz, 1.266. It's flat for a little bit of the first part of the band and drops down to 1.023 at 51.24. And then it starts a gradual rise. So at 54 megahertz, it's reading 1.595. That's very, very acceptable. I was not expecting that. So that's the look at VNASaver of the ZS6BKW antenna, and I am very pleased with it. Now, we do know that we have a couple of bands that's questionable. Anything other than just turning the radio on and hitting the tune button to see will it tune it. I can't answer, haven't done that yet. If it will not, external tuner may be an option. Your mileage may vary. All right, now a little bit about the way that I went about tuning this. Remember back in the previous video, I said that I primarily use the exact links on the website that I mentioned. And again, I'll share that link in the description. I did put a piece of tape on each radiating element at the precise measurement per website. Then, once I put it on the end insulators, I had on both ends that piece of tape at a specific location so that I could measure either how much to take off or how much I needed to add on to it. When I put it on the insulators, it was just enough that I could tape the ends down with electrical tape to hold them in place, and they're still that way. But initially, everything was way out of whack. The frequencies was off, and I determined I needed to shorten the radiators some. So I looked at just basically the 20-meter band, found the resonant spot, the lowest SWR on it, and based on the ever famous calculation of dipole 234 divided by the frequency is how long it needs to be per side. I'd done that, and I had already done the one that per side for the dipole previously. So what I did is I subtracted those two measurements, and it come up with, I can't remember, it seems like it was like 5.8 whatever inch, and I just rounded it up to 6. So I shortened each dipole radiator leg by 6 inches with the tape measure and taped them back down. And these are the readings that you saw today. Now, on the website, they mention tuning the ladder line matching section, and I did not have the proper equipment to do that with, so I left it as it was. But as it turns out, I think mine may be probably about 1.5 inches too short, but I'm not going to go back and add that back in. Just, it would be too cumbersome, and the splices would probably be in one of those strain relief. So I'm going to leave it like it is, and if I determine I need an external tuner, then I've got a couple sitting on the shelf over here that's very good tuner. I'll use that, and on the bands where I don't need a tuner, I'll just either turn them off or put them in bypass. If you watched my last video, the lighting changed up a little bit. I've got the overhead lights off today. I've got the two lights in front of me on, and the one behind me overhead on. So if you will, and you haven't watched the previous video, go back and look at it, and then come look at this one and tell me the difference of the lighting and which you as a viewer prefer. That's all I've got for today. So 7-3, and I'll catch you on the next one.